The top level statements in a program is called a main program, which are saved in a variable called underscore main underscore, that is double underscore here. Python uses a special variable called name. Whenever Python executes a module, it will store the name in a variable called underscore name underscore. So in this case, underscore main underscore will be saved inside the name variable. Okay. You may be asked about these two in 1-mark questions. You have to remember. Python uses a special variable called underscore name underscore to store this name. What does this name contain? This underscore main underscore is the set of lines which are going to get executed first. Then this I told you, the default return value of a function is none. Next, we just saw a return value here saying return D. This is a single variable which is returned. Sometimes when I say return A, B, C, D, when you return more than one variable, then the data type which is returned is a tuple. Okay. If you catch the data type and try to print, it will show tuple. So when a function returns more than one value, the return data type is a tuple. Okay. Then the return statement should be the last statement in a function. The statements below that are skipped and control returns to the main program. What do you mean by that? Here I have given return D. After that, I'll print a statement called thank you. Now let us see what happens. I'll run this program. It just says 300, none and -10, but the thank you statement is not getting printed. Why? A function, when it encounters the return statement, will quickly jump back to the place where it was called. It will not see what are the lines given below that. That's why you should always give the return statement as the last line of a function. Of course, it won't result in any error, but the problem is it will not look at the program, lines which are given below that. See, now that line thank you gets printed. Why? Because I've given that above the return statement. So that is not a problem. Right? Next, about returning values. So I gave you two examples of functions. One function returned a value and one function simply printed a value. There was no return statement at all. It is possible to write a function with or without return statements. So what happens? The functions returning some value are called non-void functions. What is void? Empty. Something which there is nothing, which means nothing. So if it is returning something, it is not empty. So it is called non-void. But functions which does not return, which are empty, are called void functions. So look at this function, def high. So high is the name of the function. What do I do here? Just simply printing 2-3 statements here and call this function. This function does not have a return statement. So this kind of a function is called as a void function, or you can call it as a non-fruitful function. But in this case, void function with arguments. Here there are no arguments. Here there are some arguments to be passed. But instead of returning the answer, I am printing the answer directly inside the function. So it is your style of programming, your requirement. According to the requirement or the question, you have to decide whether you're going to pass the arguments or not, whether you're going to return a value or not. It depends on the question. Okay. Now look at this. Non-void function without arguments. Here I ask the user to enter a name and simply return welcome name. If you type Anu, welcome Anu will be printed on the screen. And here there is a non-void function with arguments. So you can have a different combination. You can use arguments, you need not use them. You can return values or arguments, or you need not return values or arguments. Nothing is wrong. Okay. Depends on the question which is asked. Now, I also told you can return more than one value. So look at this program, swap A, B, C. I'm just giving some different answers. Twice of the variable I'm assigning to the variables and returning A, B, C. So what happens here? Swap of 10, 20, 30 is called and the return value is assigned to X. But when there are more than one value, this X becomes a tuple. This X becomes a tuple. So x of 0 will give the first value of the tuple, x of 1 will return second value, x of 2 will return the third value. What is the first value? 10 plus 10, 20, then 40, then 60 will be printed on the screen. So regarding return values, you need not necessarily return a single value, you can return more than one values, which becomes a tuple.